Hey, Industrial Talk is brought to you by Cap Logistics. You want to minimize downtime? Absolutely. Increase reliability? You bet. Ensure operational profitability? Yes, you do. That means you need 24/7, 365 insights into your supply chain. Look no further. Cap Logistics. Go to caplogistics.com or just call them. They're great people. 800-227-2471. Also, TX1. Now, you know cybersecurity is important if you're on this digital transformation journey. TX1 Networks has the solutions for you. And you're saying to yourself, Scott, they're going to be complex. They're going to be difficult. No, TX1's taken that into consideration, and they provide a suite of solutions that truly meet your cybersecurity needs. Go out to tx1-networks.com and find out more. You're not going to be disappointed.
Welcome to the Industrial Talk Podcast with Scott McKenzie. Scott is a passionate industry professional dedicated to transferring cutting-edge, industry-focused innovations and trends while highlighting the men and women who keep the world moving. So put on your hard hat, grab your work boots, and let's go.
All right, welcome to Industrial Talk. Thank you very much for joining the #1 industrial-related podcast in the universe that celebrates you. You're an industrial pro. Accept it. Embrace it. That we celebrate you each and every day because you are bold, you are brave, you dare greatly, you're solving problems, you're innovating, you're making my life better, you're making the world better. Thank you very much for what you are doing. Okay, in the hot seat, I'm a big fan of industrial entertainment. We've got a gentleman by the name of Lee Kitchen. Now, he is the founder of, Magical Dude Consulting. And I'm just telling you right now, we've got to put ourselves out there. Let's get a little uncomfortable and make the content we develop more fun. Let's get cracking. I'm always a big fan of going to Disneyland. I like what they do. They never stop innovating. They always have front of mind, right there, front of mind, each and every day to deliver an experience, a wonderful experience for the customers, or in their case, guests. And me personally, I'm intrigued by that, especially within industry, right? I think there is a magical component to what you do, and what we have been talking about over the past number of years, and that is that innovation that comes from industry, that comes from the people of industry, that are truly solving problems. But unfortunately, I was writing this down when I was working out. Unfortunately, I don't think people are really listening, or if they are they really consuming it? And I wrote a couple of the things down, and I think what's impressive, and you got to think about this, and I've done what? Over 3,000 podcasts, and I've sort of distilled it down to these qualities. I've done more, but don't. It's like, if it's not entertaining, if your content is not entertaining, let's say it's dry as a popcorn, say it's a white paper, whatever. If it's not entertaining, people are not consuming it, and people are not listening. Trust me, it happens. If you don't have the street cred, and let's say what that means. If I'm just a new guy out of college, and I'm talking to some seasoned industrial manufacturing professional about what they need to do, I don't have the street cred, and so they're not going to listen. They don't. And in fact, I was doing some work when I was with Price Waterhouse with other utilities, and unfortunately for me, I had that background as a journeyman lineman. I climbed the towers. I negotiated these contracts. Anyway, I had that street cred, and therefore, my recommendations, my insights, my conversations were rooted in that street cred. And so if you don't have the street cred, it's hard, especially in industry and manufacturing, for people to listen or consume your content. That's number two. And then this is where it gets really challenging. I know we're all sitting there going, well, we've got to sell. We've got to generate some revenue. We've got to close some deals. And so many of these these webinars, these virtual events turn out to be sort of infomercial light or just full-on infomercial about the products, the solutions that are being served up at that time. And I'm not, I'm not getting, just slapping them upside the head on this thing. It's just the fact that I think people in general are interested in solving problems, interested in what is that innovative solution. And these are the things that I'm struggling with, and here it is, right? And if it's too infomercially, people are not going to listen. I don't listen to them on TV. It's just not how we roll. And especially in industry as a whole, that's just not how we roll. So I challenge you, first off, try to be entertaining. What does that look like? I just put myself out there. You might have an entertaining style, but I'm just telling you right now, be more entertaining. People will consume your content. And then, again, you're going to have some street cred. You just can't just roll up and say, I know everything about whatever. And you don't, it'll get sniffed out and sniffed out quickly, and nobody's going to listen to you, and you lose credibility. And then third, I challenge you not to be infomercial-ish or infomercial light. And I understand the necessity of being able to wanting to close deals, and understand the necessity to communicate that feature function. Get it, on it. However, I think it's all baked in. And if you're solving somebody's problem, it's all in there, and they're going to look to you for help. That's just how I think it's going to roll. All right. One thing to put on your calendar, I had a great interview with a gentleman by the name of Paul Holland. And he is a partner with Mach 49. And Mach 49 is a VC firm. And what fascinates me about anything that's around financing and venture is, especially right now, there's a need. There is a need to be able to have partners on your side that can deliver capital that is necessary for you to scale. And so we're going down that road, and we've got one. I'm going to release his conversation, I want to say this Thursday. Anyway, it's going to be out there. However, it's a great call and conversation. We talk a lot about a lot of things. Important. You need money to expand for your technology and your solutions. All right. Lee Kitchen, magicaldude.com. He has a Disney pedigree, been there for a long time, but he takes that type of training, that insights, that passion to innovate and create something that's really quite fascinating. And I think that you're going to like this conversation, because I think that we need more of this type of approach when it comes to industry and communicating what we do. Old guys like me, maybe not, but new people, yes, they do. I guarantee you they do. All right, enjoy this conversation with Lee. All right, Lee, welcome to Industrial Talk. I'm telling you right now, listeners, this is going to be a barn burner of a conversation, because he is going to bring even the kitchen sink. How about that?
Good one.
Oh, yeah. Bet you haven't heard that one before, huh?
No, never.
Get out of here. Lee Kitchen is his name. He is the founder, which is pretty doggone cool. I like this Magical Dude Consulting. Yeah.
Thank you.
Here you are, man. That's all cool.
Here I am. I'm stoked to be here, man. Heard a lot about you, and people talk about you all the time.
No, I am a big deal. I am. Absolutely. Don't tell my wife that.
You got it.
Or my kids, because they'll blow you up. They're like, yeah, right. Yeah, right. Anyway, for the listeners, let's get this thing a cracking. Let's give us a little background on who Lee is and your pedigree. And we're going to be talking about creativity and innovation on this particular podcast. Talk to us.
Awesome. All right. So I am a long-term Disney guy. I worked 32 years for the mouse, and it was my lifelong dream since I was 6 years old. I grew up in Northern California, and when I turned 18, I graduated high school, and I moved to Florida all in that same 3-day period.
You didn't go to Anaheim?
No, I went there. That's where my inspiration came from. My grandparents used to take me to Disneyland all the time, but I was a huge Walt fan, and I loved his vision for what Epcot should have been. And so when they decided to make Epcot a theme park instead, I was still a huge fan. So I wanted to be at Epcot. That was my gig. And my very first job was as an operator in the land pavilion at Epcot. And I basically realized my lifelong dream at 18, and the rest is just cake, really.
Okay, I got to interject. I found this out because we're going to make it a point to go to Orlando and go to Epcot.
Nice.
Specifically for the drinks around the world.
Yeah, Food and Wine Festival. Yes. Yeah. Awesome. Make sure you take plenty of money.
Yeah.
And my 401k and my stock price appreciates it. Thank you so much.
That's all fine. We will contribute, but well worth it.
It's a really great event. And actually, my next step in Disney, after I worked 4 years in operations, I actually went into special events, and I worked on the first team that started the Food and Wine Festival and the Flower and Garden Festival. And it was funny because we had to basically go in and tell leadership, hey, we've got this great idea for an event, but it's not going to make any money for 5 years.
Yeah,
they bought it. And you know what? It's the most successful event that Walt Disney World has ever seen. And year over year, it still brings the crowds back. And it's really great. So I'm glad to hear you're going.
Tell you, man, I was so excited when I found out about it. I said, are you kidding me? At Epcot, I can wander the world and drink and enjoy.
Yep,
I'm all dialed in.
You're gonna have a great time. You can again just bring plenty of funds because it's tapas style stuff, but you can definitely clear through a lot of small glasses of wine and champagne and beer. There's a lot of beer too. So
okay, well, you lay the financial expectations out. I'm game.
All right, good. So after that, after I worked there, I went into PR for a little bit, and I helped on making kind of PR moments. And after that, I went to be a brand manager, and I was a brand manager for 10 years, a strategy manager. I worked part-time at the parks, and then I worked 7 years at Disney Cruise Line, an amazing product. If you've never sailed on Disney Cruise, it's definitely an amazing experience. And then my last 10 years, I worked for a group called Creative Inc., which was the internal in-house design thinking group. So we basically help people solve challenges in a different way, but we also help train people to think creatively and make creativity a skill and make innovation a habit, right? And we're practitioners of it. So we got to help all different parts of the company come up with their next big thing. And that wasn't just in parks. We also helped the Walt Disney Studios. We helped Lucasfilm. We helped Pixar. It was a really great gig. We got to travel the world doing it too. So my last gig at Disney was one of the most fun gigs I had, man. And then after I left, I took basically that skill that I learned there, and now I offered it up to businesses around the world, and basically helping people think differently about their challenges and helping train them to be more creative on a habitual basis, and basically helping people change their culture in their business.
All right. I've got a couple of questions to pepper you with.
Go for it.
Define design thinking. What does that mean?
So it's basically a structured approach to problem solving. And it's at the heart of it is human needs. So it's human-centered design, which means we're going to figure out what our end user and what our audience really needs first before we go creating stuff and before we make products and services or marketing campaigns for them. Because so many times we make assumptions about our buyers, our end users, or whoever they happen to be, and we create stuff that they don't need. And so identifying the need up front is really an important part of that piece. And in order to do that, you really have to walk in your consumer shoes.
So how
you have
does
to
that
empathize with
happen? Let's say you just sort of sit there, right?
Yeah.
And somebody comes up with this idea. It has to come someplace. I mean, they might be walking down the street, and it's like, that's important. That might be something big.
Usually happens in the shower, though, right, Scott?
Yes. And that's where
that's like the number one answer when I ask people, we come up with your best ideas? They always say the shower.
Walking my dog. That's
dry erase board, man. That's all you need.
And that's it. But that's where it starts. It's just, and then you have to dive in to see.
Yeah, I mean, it starts with a hypothesis. It's just like science. You start with a hypothesis or a hunch about what's going on. You go out to prove your hunch. You talk to plenty of end users. You get plenty of inspiration. And then you got to define, okay, this is what we really want to solve for here. let's get some more inspiration from our consumers, and then we can create some ideas. And once we create the ideas, let's just polish those ideas to be awesome before we go execute them. Again, it's putting a little bit of a structured approach to creating something new and different, basically.
Is there I understand, but is there a marketing component to that? Let's say you go through this design thinking, this problem solving, you really refine it. You still have to get that message out and get it out in such a way that makes sense for the consumer, saying, yeah,
of course. You go through the same process to create the marketing plan. I mean, I spent the last 5 years at Disney. I worked for the Alliance marketing team, and most of the brainstorms and ideation session I had was creating a marketing campaign to attract a specific audience with a service or a product that we came up with at another session. So yeah, definitely a marketing component to that. It's a different kind of brainstorm, and you come up with different ideas. But yeah, and you'll find those marketing people that you work with, they're usually more practiced in creativity, and that's why they're given the title creative director and art director and things like that, because they're practiced creatives. They call them creatives because they do it every day, right? But everybody else in the organization is equally as creative. They just don't practice it as much, right? My finance guy at when I worked for Epcot, man, he could really think creatively about how we made sure we spend that budget throughout the year, right? He didn't have creativity in his title, but man, he was super creative, So it's a matter, to me, it's a matter of getting practiced and getting out there, and a lot of people just don't practice creativity on a daily basis, right?
See, I'm just so bullish on the term creatives, because
yeah, me too.
In industry, right, we have solutions. We're trying to solve problems. It's all great, but I think we have a decent time at identifying problems and doing. Maybe we have a real challenge, and it's not to slam anybody. If you're listening to it, you can chirp and call me whatever, but that doesn't matter. Is the creative side, because I believe, if you have an innovative solution, and it is, but if you don't deliver it in a creative way to get people to consume or to listen or to take action, whatever, you fail.
Yeah, I totally agreed. Part of the stuff that I do in my workshops is the pitch. I spend a lot of time on the actual pitch. So here it is. You created all this great stuff, but you've got to get by your stakeholders, your leadership, whoever it may be. And a lot of ideas fall and fail at that point. And it's like, wow, you worked 3 months on that idea. You want to make sure you bring it to life in a way that somebody can understand it. And when new ideas come out, they sound horrible. At first they sound terrible. You know that. I mean, every time you probably have a good idea and you tell it to your wife or to whoever, you get that look like, what are you talking about? Am I right?
Yeah, it's a humbling experience, Craig. Yeah, I was all.
Yeah, but I mean, like, that's what they all, even when Uber and Netflix and all those game changers came out, they sounded stupid. I mean, who wants to ride home with a stranger from a bar? Nobody's going to do that. My mom told me not to ride with strangers. You know what I'm saying? So
look at us now.
Right, that's what I'm saying. They all sound ridiculous. But the trick is, like you said, the trick is to make sure that you do that pitch right and you get it pulled forward so you can do something with it, right?
So as a Disney Plus guy, there is
you like that.
Yeah, what they'll do these documentaries or whatever, and there's a point where they're pitching and they've got the board, they're doing everything, and you can tell the stress is just off the charts because
it's all or nothing.
It's all or nothing.
Yeah, and that's a lot of work and probably a lot of dollars that you spent at that point, right?
True. And I get all nervous. I hope, and it was like somebody pitching.
You're like, please don't feel. I mean, that's why I love watching the Shark Tank. And you see those guys come into the Shark Tank. Some of them haven't prepped right, and they're like, "No, dude, you did not even come close to bringing that idea to life correctly." Yeah.
That's uncomfortable.
It's really important stuff. And like I said, you have to make that stuff real because it's really hard for people to see your vision. And I do in my workshops, I use the example of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. The producer for that show on its onset took 10,000 pounds in cash to the pitch meeting, and they played it in real life. And so he used his own money to play all of the scenarios. And it was like, it made that person feel exactly how the audience was going to feel. So it was a great sell because he used the real money for it. And you got to think of ways to bring that stuff to life. Otherwise, all that work down the drain, right?
Wow.
But then also I say no bad idea is just bad timing. So I say, even if your idea doesn't doesn't have merit that one particular time, put it in a folder, because it might come back up and you might be like, hey, this applies to this challenge too. Hey, why not? No bad idea, just bad timing.
Flavored sunflower seeds. That was my idea. And then
come on, that's a great idea.
It is, but somebody took it.
I know. You sit on it long enough, somebody's going to take it. I had one for video, solar activated video screens in tombstones, so that you could see the story of the person that's there. Somebody took that already too.
Did they really?
I sat on that one for like 4 or 5 years, and all of a sudden I see them selling it. I'm like, darn it, I waited too long.
I would go to the doggone cemetery just for that alone.
Yeah, because you know what? You want to hear the story, and in my mind, you wanted to hear the story about a person, and so I thought maybe a repeating video that just plays, and it's powered by solar electricity, so you don't have to worry about replacing the battery or anything.
Oh,
so, come on, let's do that.
God, that's cool. Because I
got more.
Hey, I'm loaded, baby. Yeah. I'm bringing the kitchen sink. Keep using it.
It's funny too, because my job is to basically extract ideas out of people, and I don't usually come up with ideas until I leave a session, and then I'll have 5 or 6 ideas towards their cause. And that's kind of just the way my creative brain works. I get them to come up with ideas, and then I come up with ideas later. But I also make the point of, hey, we came up with all the ideas, we wrote them all down on the spot. Go back to the spot 2 days later and write down what else you have, because inevitably when you leave the session and the brainstorm, that's when you come up with, and you're in the shower, you're walking your dog or whatever, you're going to come up with a lot more. So let's not stop at the actual physical session. Go ahead and add in your 2 cents afterwards, because there's a lot of good content there you might miss if you don't do that. It
never stops. It never stops.
Yeah. You seem to me like you're an ideator. Is that what you would qualify yourself as?
Excuse me?
Are you an ideator?
Yeah,
we have a Myers-Briggs style thing in creativity that we call foresight, and it's basically divides up creativity profiles into 4 profiles. One is a clarifier, which means you have to ask a bunch of questions before you get started on a problem. Another one is an ideator, which means you love to create ideas all the time. Another one is an implementer, a developer, which means you like to take an idea and really develop it. And then another one is the implementer, which is your on the floor operations style folks. Right. So it's interesting when you do that for a group of people to find out how your team is based, because if you put 4 clarifiers together, they'll never get anything done because they're busy asking too many questions. But at the same time, if you put 4 ideators together, they'll come up with a bunch of ideas, but they won't get anything done after that, So you got to mix it up.
God, I can't remember. I was reading a book. Yeah. It's a book. I don't have it in front of me, but it's a book, and it really talks about, and they call them disruptors, right?
Yep.
No,
yep.
Catalysts.
Catalyst, yeah.
So I'm a catalyst, but I can't have a room full of catalysts, because then everything.
No, we need to intersperse you in with the other
yes.
folks. That's one of the things that I tell my clients. I'm like, please make sure that you bring those, think about those catalysts, because everybody's got those catalysts in their organization. Yeah, they know who they are. And I'm like, bring them in and tell me who they are, so I can make sure that they inspire all the other people, because people like having someone to kind of lead that discussion. And it really does help draw it out from both introverts and extroverts, because I want to make sure both people or both styles have a way to get their ideas. But having those catalysts come and be there up front is a great way to make sure that everybody kind of mixes. It's the same way, Scott, is if you're having a party, you got to invite a few of those people for the party, because they're the ones that are going to keep the party going,
That's why I'm always hired out.
Yeah, I mean, that's why you're invited to the big events, Scott. You are you are the catalyst. You got to keep that up, though. You keep going to great events after that.
That's right. Bring me to a wedding. I'm there, baby.
Yeah, I'm the one first on the dance floor.
It's true. My wife.
Actually, I do a workshop that's called "Party Your Way to Great Ideas," and I do a metaphorical comparison between a brainstorm and a party. And you really need the exact same components. You need the right people in the room. You need to drive the conversation. You need to monitor the arc of the party and make sure you hit the right notes at the right time. And you need to have an after party, which is, let's get together and see what we talked about, and then sometimes the after party.
See, I love this approach, and you're just speaking my language. Of course,
nice.
You're speaking it in such a way that is succinct, as opposed to me being all over the page.
Yeah, I got you, man.
Driving my daughter crazy or my wife crazy. Anyway, let me just sort of backtrack a little bit.
Go for it.
You talked about one of the most component is like this pitch. Give me sort of a structure of a good pitch.
In my mind, a good pitch has an analogous or metaphorical way to describe your idea that somebody can get. So it's taking something familiar and, comparing it to something unfamiliar. That's one thing.
Yeah, I like
another
that.
thing is passion and succinctness. There's so many people that pitch every last little detail, and you really have to get to the point really quickly, because a lot of times your executive team, you're pitching to your EVP or your SVP or whatever, they don't have time. They give you 5 minutes or 15 minutes. Fighting for the time that you need is important, but they might not give it to you, right? So making sure that you're succinct, and also making sure that you kind of took them on a quick consumer journey of how you got there, and identifying identifying that need and what you're solving for, because it's hard for them not to put themselves in their consumer shoes when they might not be the audience, right? They're not the consumer. So you have to get them to feel like the end user or the consumer just a little bit, so they can understand what it is that you're trying to pitch that solves that need. That a lot of people fail on that because the executive is not even close to the target audience, so they have no understanding of what's going on, right? And so you have to get them to feel like the consumer feels just for a brief moment, and then bring it back. And that's all about storytelling. Good storytelling is really how you get people to sway on your ideas, is bringing that story to life.
Good point.
And going beyond words. I always say visual, auditory, and kinesthetic, using all three of those things to make sure that, because the audience that you're pitching to might, like numbers and words better. Another person might like pretty pictures, and another person might need to see and smell and touch something significant that has to do with your product or something like that, right? So keeping that stuff in mind too.
You're spot on. I like the metaphor in it, and the reason is, and maybe it's just me, if somebody pitches me something but uses a metaphor, I'm all in. And it's just it's an emotion.
Well, it's a great way to quickly understand
boom,
it, right?
Switch, boom, done. And then you can sit there and you've got it, move forward. And I think there are plenty of books out there about storytelling. And if you're not a good storyteller, grab a book and read how to do that, because that's super powerful as well. And
Love it.
And in industry, we tend to be very passionate about our widget, and then we'll dive deep into the code, and then we'll dive deeper into the APIs that connect that code. Anyway, by that time,
which is fine if you're speaking to the API, the code person, but most of the time a leader is not that, because they might be twice removed from that. So you have to come up with a way to speak their language,
So know your audience.
Yeah, that's an important piece.
That's very good. Now, I always talk about education, collaboration, and innovation, because I like education. Get a good book, figure out how to storytell. 2, collaborate, like you and others who look at the world differently, solve problems in a unique way. But it's important to have that dialogue, have that conversation.
Absolutely. And also, you know what, Scott? My idea is great, but my idea is only going to be made better when you add your 2 cents.
Perfect.
Right? Because I don't even know where you're coming from, but when we put our great stuff together, it's going to be better. Trust me. I know there's a lot of people that come up with individual ideas and they're geniuses and all that kind of stuff, but I have seen in my line of work that collaboration always leads to better outcomes. Always. I will, that's one of the top things that I will say is, I have great ideas. I'm an ideator, but man, you have great ideas too. And we put them together, it's going to be monstrous. It's going to be great.
It is an interesting thing to begin to embrace. And I think that COVID has really shined the light on the necessity to collaborate. Pre-COVID, I always say we brought our C game, whatever it might be. And we were really tight-lipped, and we held our cards close to the vest. And
we had to switch it up really quickly too.
Ooh, did we ever? And then all of a sudden it hits. I don't have the answers. What do I do? And so that's outside of all the negative. The COVID, that's a positive thing that took place with COVID. The last
and it challenged us to kind of rethink how we, our absolutes, because, there's an absolute that a fancy restaurant couldn't provide delivery food. Oh, there's no way we could ever do that. That's not what we do. And all of a sudden I'm getting delivery from the fanciest restaurant in town and it tastes delicious. So they overcame it. But they, before, when they're closed mind, they wouldn't have been able to think of it. But out of necessity, they had to come up with something, right?
That's a great analogy, because you're absolutely right. It didn't take long for them to say, come by my curb. I'll give it to you.
I remember when I was at Disney, one of my bosses would always say, there's no way we can have brainstorms over video. They have to be there in person. They have to. And I was like, well, actually, I could do it. I just had to make sure that there was someone like me, a facilitator on the other side. And so when it started becoming where I had to do all this stuff over Zoom, it was like, oh, I know exactly how to do this because I totally violated my boss's wishes and did it anyway back then. And we did it, right? We all got together virtually. And yes, I always call the obvious out right away. Hey, here's the elephant in the room. Yes, we're not in person. I'm sorry, but let's act like we are, right? Let's bring our in real life presence as much as possible to this little video screen. This is not a YouTube video. It's not a kitty cat video. This is you and me interacting just as if we're sitting in a coffee shop. So please, don't put a bag over your head and show up to the meeting with your video off. Like you wouldn't walk into a meeting with a bag over your head, would you? No. So, let's all show up and let's act like we're actually together. And I know it's not perfect, but we got to do it. And we're going to come up with some great stuff because of it. So there you have it.
All right. So we're talking also about innovation, right? Why is innovation, that creative energy that could exist in your organization, that needs to exist in your organization, must exist, important for innovation? Why is innovation important to a business?
I just think of, Blockbuster, man. Blockbuster was refused to innovate. And here comes Reed Hastings and offers to sell them the great idea of no late fees and unlimited selection and all that kind of stuff. And they just couldn't see past the end of their nose. And so it's hard to be complacent in today's world because somebody else will replace you. Somebody else your consumer's already having that dialogue and they're going to find something else. So you have to stay ahead as much as possible. And you can't rest on your laurels, right? You have to just constantly challenge yourselves. And if you're standing around saying, this is the way we've always done it, we're always going to do it like this, it's a tough gig because you might not be there anymore. I see a couple organizations that really could use this. One is golf. Another one is boating. And another one is alcoholic beverages. Now they did stretch themselves to create the cinnamon whiskey and stuff like that. They did pretty good, but I haven't really seen innovation in those industries in as much as I'd want to. Like fundamental changes.
I'll tell you something about whiskey. There's one guy up in Cleveland, and he is applying. There's the chemistry side that they got to produce the alcohol, it's distillation, whatever. And, but to speed up the aging process of the spirit, he puts it into pressure vessels. So like an Instapot. Instapot really wasn't an innovation. Think about the Instapot. All it is a pressure cooker. And they identified a need that the audience needed, the target audience needed, which was something really quick. Well, it's something that your grandmother used, was really quick, but it was a hassle because you had to clamp it down and it had the thing and it could explode at any time. So they made it safe and they made it easy. And what do? They reintroduced the pressure cooker to a whole new audience that really needed it. And that's a great example. Thank you for that. I love it in a big way. So, but no, his pressure vessel fluctuates, and so it takes the little wood pieces, which you can use any wood. So it takes the little wood pieces and makes them like into little sponges, sucks in the alcohol, speeds it up. That's interesting. But
I love hearing stories like that because that's really us. Many companies would call that a renovation and not an innovation, but one little tiny thing that you think is a renovation could lead to an innovation that you don't even know about yet. That's what I love. I've worked for a couple of clients that ask for just renovations because they don't have budget for a complete innovation. But what happens is they create a renovation to an existing product, which turns out to be a brand new product that doesn't exist. And you're like, that's an innovation, something new and novel that people want.
So I hear what you're saying, Lee, and I think there has to be a formal process within the organization that is focused on that innovation, that dreaming, that creativity of a better life going forward, whatever it might be. But it has to be formalized because many companies don't. They get into the trenches. This is how they do it, blah, 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 blah. I'm not.
And ideas get lost too. Nobody knows where to put ideas. And there's frontline people that have the greatest ideas, but they're never heard from. And so what good is it doing you unless you can hear from those people who are living it every day? So I agree wholeheartedly. There has to be some sort of structure to make sure those ideas can see the light of day,
Especially now. I think the way technology exists today, there is more of a yes, there's a solution as opposed to no, we can't, because I think technology is in such a way that it will help facilitate greater creativity if you just are in the game and you formalize that process. I agree with you 100%. Absolutely.
And also, in my mind, also you have to own it. And if you phone it in, it doesn't work. Like if you're a leader of an organization and you say, "Oh, we're going to do some innovation, creativity, and then we're going to put the box back up on the shelf and go back to the way we normally do stuff," you're not really owning it. You have to walk the walk and talk the talk, and you have to do it repeatedly. You can't just do it one time. That's why I always talk in my workshops that you have to somehow make this a habit, and you have to challenge yourself on a daily basis to make sure that creativity stays a habit. It's not just something you pull off a shelf for a one-time brainstorm.
Yeah, I can't support you even. I mean, this is amazing because creativity is key. Yeah. Especially if you're going to collaborate, if that is a driver for you as an organization to solve problems, then the necessity for design think has to be a part of it, creativity, innovation, and you got to keep at it. You can't just say, "Oh, we didn't do anything that day. No big deal, no big deal." You've got to be able to just stick with it and be in the game and make it. And
even if it fails too, you have to be ready to accept a few failures because it's not every one of them is going to be great, right? So you just have to keep trying.
That's a whole nother conversation.
I know it is. I was like, we're already into 40 minutes here. You're giving me a lot of time today.
Yeah, accepted. Well, then let's just wrap. No, I love this because it communicates the necessity to innovate and to bring that innovation to succeed and create a business of resiliency. The analogy of Blockbuster, absolutely. Here today, gone tomorrow.
Yeah,
and
Kodak too.
It's not as if
it's just too bad.
Yeah, it's not as if they didn't have the capital to make it happen. They did. They just got.
They got arrogant. Our way is better. This is how we do it.
Arrogance. Put that on the shelf. Put that.
Yeah,
no, put
that's
that
a whole other conversation.
Get the heck out of here. Get that arrogance away from me. All right, so you're speaking my language, and you're probably inspiring some listeners out there.
Good.
How do they? And I see. Just 1 second. You got the inspiration report. Speaking of inspiring, tell us a little bit about that, and tell us how we can get a hold of you.
Okay, so you can get a hold of me through my website, which is magicaldude.com. Once a month, a good buddy of mine, Sean, and I do a report called the Inspiration Report. And basically, we pick out about 15 different inspiring innovations, products, services that are happening in the world. And we present it and talk about it. We generate a lot of dialogue in the chat. So we do that on my Twitch channel, which hopefully that you'll post there. It's also on magicaldude.com. You can check that out. And yeah, we hope to, really the one thing I tell people is that you have to get fresh input, and you have to make sure that you again make that a habit of going outside your comfort zone to get that input, because when it comes time to collaborate and make connections, you can't just stick with the stuff that So we basically say, if you can't go anywhere else for inspiration, come see us. It's an hour, 11:30 Eastern, the first Friday of every month. This month it'll be on October 29th. So we're going to do a special Halloween episode. So that's that one.
Wow. So listeners, you
get to be on the mailing list, Scott, because every time we do a podcast, you immediately get on the mailing list. So
yay. I'm always, and you know what's interesting? I read them. I want to know what's going on out there. I want to see how people are approaching the market, what they're communicating, and how they're communicating it, and the good, and it's the good, bad, and the ugly. If I don't understand, if I don't see how this is good, I want to see why, and not duplicate it or try to improve it or whatever it might be. That to me is important, and
good.
And that's just me. So sign up for a doggone. They're not spam. It's just information and figure it out, man. That's I'm all into a mailing list, man. All right, listeners, that's Lee Kitchen. He did bring it. I mean, just truth bombs. God, that was good, man.
Good. I had a great time. You're a great guy, and I really believe in what you're doing. So
that's
keep
right,
it up.
Listeners. I'm a great guy. Do not come to me and say, Scott, you're not a great guy, because Lee says I'm a great guy. Let's be creative out there. Let's be innovative out there. Let's collaborate. Let's educate. You can educate. It's got the World Wide Web at your doggone fingertips.
Yep.
Figure this out.
No excuses.
No excuses. And be a business of resilience and reach out to. I can't believe Magical Dude URL was available.
I know, me either. I was totally floored when and I was like, Magical Dude is available? Yeah, and I bought every permutation of it too. MagicalDude.us, .com, .biz,
Right.
.buzz.
I was like, I'm on it, man.
I went crazy.
Yeah. Did you get Dude Magical?
No, I did not. But I was pretty happy with that score. And it was funny too because I sent I have 3 WhatsApp threads and I sent it like in all caps, and everyone was like, "What is the big deal?" I'm like, "You don't understand."
Freaking URL.
That was a big deal.
I thought there were no URLs available.
Yeah. Well, also I thought I'd have to negotiate it for $9,000 or something like that. I paid $12 for it. So
it's like yes. Gosh, that's another conversation.
Yeah.
All right, Lee, you were absolutely wonderful.
Thanks, man. It's a pleasure. And whenever you want to talk about it again, you just give me a call. I'll come in. I got plenty more stories. So. All
right, listeners, we're going to wrap it up on the other side. So fear not. We're going to have all Lee's contact information, his website, and anything else we can probably put in there. We're going to be posting his. There's a podcast he has there. He's got a video. We got a lot of stuff about Lee. So go out to industrialtalk.com. You can find out more. So stay tuned. We will be right back.
You're listening to the Industrial Talk Podcast Network.
All right, I enjoyed that conversation. As you can tell, Lee brought the goods to the house. And I'm just telling you right now, you've got to get out of your comfort zone. You just do. You can't have conventional thinking. No, do not. Run away from it. And really try to get people, if you're in the business of trying to get people to listen to what you have to say, you got to be entertaining. You got to have the street cred, and you definitely can't be an infomercial. You got to help them solve problems. That's just sort of the secret sauce right here. Go out, again, magicaldude.com. Reach out to him. You're not going to be disappointed, I guarantee you. All right. Let's push our envelope. Let's stop being conventional. Let's start being somewhat disruptive in the way we communicate our value. I want you to hang out with people who are bold, brave, and daring greatly. Find them. Get them a part of your posse, whatever you need to do. And you'll see that you're going to be changing the world. You're going to see that greater value is going to be coming to your bottom line. All right. Thank you very much for joining Industrial Talk. We're going to have another great conversation right around the corner.